Hi guys, Squirrel here. Welcome to another episode of the Kerbal space program. In this episode, I'm going to take a new piece up for the space station. If you remember at the end of the last video, I finished putting up the 4 fuel tanks, so now there's plenty of fuel up there. Battery power, fuel, not a problem. In order to expand, I need a new midsection, and this is it. Now, you might think, well, that's not terribly exciting. But, you know, let me just take you through what's going on here. This is the actual attachment point. This is going to attach to just where the 4 fuel tanks meet. There's kind of cross-section in the middle. There's a docking port, so that's going to be the attachment point. We've got a few RCS pods, but they're mostly for manoeuvring. I'm not trying to get more fuel to the station. It doesn't need it. So then we've got what do you call this? A flange, an adapter. And here's the control point here. You need one of these if you're going to have an unmanned spacecraft. There's the MechJeb component, some thrusters, and we've got one of these like 1 to 3 adapters which I've stuck on. I've then lined up these I-beams. I-beams are quite good. You can line them end to end and then just kind of twist them around so they line up nicely like that. So we've got 3 of these coming down. I've put struts across just to keep everything all nice and secure. And then some more I-beams coming out. And on the end of each I've put this will open up into a satellite dish. So we've got plenty of comms on here, no matter which way the space station's facing. There should be a comms dish pointing roughly towards Kerbin. There's some lights, because obviously we want some lights to point out to this stuff. Again, similar kind of thing going on down here. This is another adapter. So this represents where I will then extend the station off in this direction. If you remember at the last video I said I wanted suggestions to attach to the fuel tanks. So I've got people sending me stuff in. That's going to go up at the fuel tank section. But this is where I'm going to extend out on the space station and build the crew quarters and that kind of thing. So this I've lovingly called the backbone components, because it represents the backbone coming out from the fuel tanks, and everything else will hang off the end of this. So apart from that, the actual rocket that's going to take it up. Oh look, MechJeb's being a bit funny. There we go. There we go. You've noticed I've got some beams, and that's kind of strapped in there just to hold it in. They'll snap off when you detach. Other than that, it's as before. It's the main rocket with the asparagus staging tanks. So without further ado, shall we go and launch this into space and attach it, and then see what it looks like? Now, if you remember, the space station is roughly parked at 100 kilometer orbit, and in order to do an efficient transfer from one orbit to another, it depends on the distance between them. So what I don't want to do is get into a very close orbit with the space station, because I'll never catch it up, or it'll never catch me up. So I'm going to head off and go up to about 200 kilometers. It doesn't have to be exact, there's no rocket science here. Nice pun. But anything, 200, 220, when you get out to that kind of height, it takes very little fuel to change orbit, to change the height of the orbit, as you'll see. Just a very small burn of the rocket, and you can move out 10 kilometers. So the important thing is to get a decent distance. 200 kilometers should be fine, but I'm not going to be worried if it's not quite that accurate. So you can see now my current apoapsis. If you look at the orbit info panel, it shows the apoapsis. This is MechJeb doing this, of course. It's shown it at 120, and you can see as I'm burning, it's climbing really quickly. 140, 150, 160. This is what I'm saying. When I get to about 200, I'm just going to kill it. There we go. So that'll do. We don't need any more height than that. A 100 kilometer difference will give us plenty of speed difference in order to make a matching, in order to make a intercept, is the word I'm looking for, an intercept with the space station. So I'm just going to let MechJeb circularize the orbit for me. Just click on circularize at the next apoapsis, create and execute. You can do this manually, as I've said before. But just before it finishes, I'm going to kill it, and then at a 50 kilometer periapsis, I'm going to detach the main rocket, which I shall do now. That, of course, there goes the outer shell. Important to stage that first, and then the second stage, you detach the main rocket. All of these pieces will now fall back towards a 50 kilometer Kerbin orbit, which means they hit the atmosphere and they'll all crash and burn. Exactly what we want. Always get rid of the space junk, people. You don't want those parts in the air because everything takes processing power, and as you'll see when we get into the space station, things start to get a bit laggy. There's so many parts in the space station now that when you get near it, you start to suffer frame drop. Although I have heard that the latest patch of Kerbal Space Program is causing some frame drop. I don't know whether that's true or not, but we shall see. Circularizing the orbit now, just want to get this up to 200. Again, accuracy does not matter because we're not going to leave it in this orbit. And there we go. We are now in a lovely 200 kilometer stable orbit. So the next thing to do, of course, is to plan a Hohmann or Hoffman transfer, which we can do with MechJeb. You need to align the planes first, so you get your planes aligned. When you've done that, click on the Intersect with Hohmann transfer. It will calculate the most efficient route. All you've got to do now is wait T-3, 2 seconds, and we start our burn. That's going to collapse our orbit. And that should bring us on an intercept. There you go, 6.9 kilometers closest point. Which is good, that's fine. So we'll just jump forward slightly. And here we are, 7 kilometers away. Now, I'm going to spin this thing around. You notice I've still got my fuel at the moment. So I'm going to get him fairly close before I jettison this component. This is like the orbiting vehicle, and I'm going to jettison that, and I'll deorbit that later. Just pointing towards a retrograde, you can see we've got a... if you look where it says target speed there, it says 77 meters per second. So I'm just going to point retrograde and burn. You can see that coming down. Get that close to 0. And then we're going to spin around. Point at the target. There we go, that'll do. Spin around, point at the target, and then burn straight towards it. Now we're what, 6 kilometers away, so don't want to burn too quickly. Just make the final adjustment here. I left my burn on around there. I have no idea why I did that. That was a mistake. I should have turned the burn completely off. Right, let's pick up some speed. 80 meters per second. That's 800 meters in 10 seconds. Means we'll reach the target in a matter of... what's your maths, people? A minute? That's fine. Need about 20 seconds to turn around. Get around to retrograde. And pretty soon I'm going to have to detach the transfer vehicle. Because we don't need that bit. There we go. Don't forget that little trick of accelerate time and then kill accelerate time. That'll stop your rotation. Just the way Kerbal works, I should say. Again, you can time warp towards it. And I'm just going to start to adjust the speed. There we go. This is very much by eye. You can actually see the target, so you just want to do this by eye. 100 meters. 3 meters per second. Just trying to kill off the final bits of our speed. That's pretty good. 120 meters is fine. So we're almost ready to detach the transfer vehicle. I'm just going to move a little bit closer and then detach. There we go. So that's going to fire in the opposite direction. You'll notice, as usual, this always happens to me. As I'm about to complete a docking move, I end up on the dark side of the planet, which just makes it really difficult to do it in the dark. So I think I'm probably going to have to get close and then time accelerate and get back into sunlight just to make this thing easier. But let's try and get into position first. Let's go around the back here. So I'm aiming for the spot in between those 4 fuel canisters. There's a docking port right there, and that's what I want to attach. Now, if you have got MechJeb, don't forget you've got the Smart ASS. That's quite useful for killing your rotation if you get out of control. Very easy to get yourself disoriented in space. It really is. There we go. We're on the right side of the space station now, but like I say, it is going darker and darker. Let's get a bit near and see how dark it is. Yep, so I've oriented myself. I've got the thing pointing the way around I want it. So I know that left is left and up is up and down is down, all that kind of thing. And I'm just going to push my way over to get into a docking position. I'm kind of hoping at this stage that I could still dock this in the minimal daylight that's left. But it's looking dodgy. I think possibly I should have put some flashlights or some halogens on the front just so that I could see the docking port as I got near it, but I don't know. If you're docking in the daylight, you don't need that, of course. And everything's weight. It's all about lack of weight. The less weight you can have on your ship, the more maneuverable it is, the less fuel you need to change position. Weight is everything, or rather mass is everything in Kerbal, in space. So here we are. I've lit the thing up and I'm contemplating the docking move. And I'm thinking, this is still pretty dark. Although my space station's beautifully lit up right now. Should I just accelerate forward? And I think that's what I decide to do. So what I do is I time accelerate a little bit and then just see what distance I get between myself and the space station. You can see it drifting apart. I'm now up to 0.1 meters per second. That's fine. If it starts to drift a bit more, then point retrograde and just use the RCS thrusters, because it's more accurate with the RCS. Just use the RCS to move yourself retrograde a little bit and bring it close to zero. You'll never get it banged on zero. And those little differences will add up as you time accelerate. So just do a little trial. Just accelerate your time a little bit. See if you're drifting apart too much. And if you're not, go for it. Get yourself back into daylight. If you are, make some micro adjustments and then accelerate again. That's what I do. And that seems to work quite well for me. Unfortunately, it's kind of got me out of position. So I'm going to have to work my way around the back of the space station. But at least I'm going into daylight now, so the whole dark thing isn't going to happen. But I think this is going to look quite cool when I put this piece on. More and more, this thing is starting to look like a space station. I do know that Kerbal gets a bit unmanageable once you get to about 1,000 parts on your ship. So as I assemble this thing and getting more and more parts, it's going to become a bit of a problem. I'm kind of hoping that the guys writing Kerbal are busy coding away some optimizations, and by the time my ship gets too big, they'll have optimized it so that it's not a problem anymore and you can actually go up to 5,000 parts. That would be nice. If not, yeah, it's going to get unmanageable. Because when you get near this, it's starting to get more and more laggy, which is making it harder to dock against. So I'm just taking my time, enjoying the view. I really can't imagine doing this for real. I tell you what, if you're doing this for real, you'd be sat in the docking pod, and you wouldn't be able to see very much. This would be really scary. Luckily, I've got a third-person camera. So this is the way I want to go in. So the quad, or rather that kind of block at the end with the extra docking ports where I'll build from is pointing away. And I'm going to put this this backbone into position. There we go. Now we're getting close now. We're moving towards the target. It looks like I'm a bit low. Yep, I'm a bit low. You can only tell by spinning the camera around. There we go. Does look beautiful though, doesn't it? That's why I just love this game. It's some of the views you get. It's the nearest thing I'll ever get to being an astronaut, that's for sure. Even the planet looks gorgeous. I can't wait till they expand this game and you can fly off to different solar systems. It's going to be so cool. Here we go, we're getting in really close. But I'm at a funny angle. If I can just get the top bit up there. Thrust forward, maybe I can make a contact. So delicate. Don't forget F5 to quick save when you get into this kind of position. You do not want to mess it up and not have a save. Okay, we've almost got a contact. But look, I'm not really. It looked like I had a contact, but I'm probably 2 meters too high. It's just unbelievable. Go back in. Small adjustments. Looks like we're about to kiss it, I think. And we're not. I'm actually miles away again. Oh my god. It cracks me up. You think you've got it spot on because of the camera view and you've got no depth perception. Can you imagine when they get the, oh god, what's it called? I've forgotten the name. The thing you put over your eyes to get 3D. Good god. Why can't I remember it? My brain, it's fell out my brain. One of those things. I'll remember the name as soon as I finish recording. I was trying to look at one in res, but the queue was massive. So we've got you know what I'm talking about. You put it over your face, over your eyes, and you get 3D view. Oculus Rift. There we go. And you remember the damn name. The Oculus Rift, right. So imagine when this game has support for the Oculus Rift, and I'll be able to look at this in full 3D. Come on, it won't join, it won't join. There we go. Has it done it? Yeah, it's done it. How cool does that look? Turn the lights off and back on. There you go. So you got lights on the backbone as well now. So as we put stuff onto those connectors, they'll all get lit up automatically. The moment they don't look like they're doing very much. One thing Kerbal does need is more choice of lights. I'd like different... You can get a mod with different coloured lights, but they're more for aviation. But it tends to wash them out as well. So one of the things I'd love the developers to put in is being able to control the power of the lights. So you can just turn them down. Because as you can see in the centre, it kind of washes things out a bit. I'd like a little bit less light towards the centre. Just open up the comms dishes and there you go. It's starting to look more and more like a space station. Remember, you guys are submitting entries in to attach to those fuel tanks up there. Meanwhile, I'm going to build off down the bottom end there. I've had some good submissions already, actually. So, I'm going to run with a few of those. Even with the lights off. If you see the lights off, then it wasn't quite as washed out. So cool. Okay, we need to work out where the delivery vehicle is, because that needs deorbiting now. So if you press the square angle bracket keys, that jumps between the nearest vehicles nearest to you. So if you, because that is still quite close to us, if you press the angle bracket key, it just jumps over to it. And you can see it's actually behind the station, so there's not really... Or is it behind or is it in front? No, it's behind. It is behind. So there's no danger of when I deorbit now. Just retrograde burn, very simple. Don't need a maneuver node, just burn away. Collapse the orbit straight back into the atmosphere. I could just let this thing fall in and blow up. Or I could just press escape and click on end flight, and that'll end the flight of the ship I'm on, which is this one. But you know, I like to do things properly. There we go, time warp towards Kerbin. It's going to hit the atmosphere. Then mysteriously it won't burn up. Getting rid of the space junk. I should probably burn the rest of that fuel off, actually. I can't while we're in time warp. Parachutes are out! Parachutes, look at that! Can you imagine? Parachutes coming out as you go through into the atmosphere. At 2,000 degrees. There we go. A little bit of thrust. Whoa! Way too much thrust. Holy crap. I was just trying to kill a bit of speed off. Good grief. Just trying to help the parachutes. 2 kilometers according to this. Parachutes deployed. 4 parachutes should be enough. The way they clip into each other is a little bit annoying. Although again, another thing I've heard is if you time accelerate this, because the physics is not spot on when it's time accelerated, little differences add up and calculations go a little bit awry. So always bring it back to ×1 before you land, and then even when you do land, for some reason your rockets blow up. Maybe it's because I had a little bit of fuel left and I should have got rid of it. Who knows? However, most of it is now on the ground. Let's go back. Let's end that. That'll kill it anyway. Tracking station, and we'll just go and have a last look at the space station. Remember, submit your entries as in detailed in the last video. I've already got a couple already, but I'm still taking some in case you've got any good ideas. That's it for this video. In the next video, I'm probably going to go off and do something else next, something really rather exciting. Until then, guys, take care and happy trekking.